Welcome. My name is Markus Wesaw, and I will be going over a brief discussion on the importance of a CPR certification and why you need it on your resume. My contact information is listed on the screen. If you wish to contact me, feel free to do so. This presentation has been put together to help out those individuals who may be in the market for a new job, a new position, or who may be unemployed. The idea that I wanted to convey in this presentation is how an individual can utilize a current credential or certification that they may have in CPR, First Aid, or the AED and actually enhance your resume. And so what I'd like to do is just go over a few of the benefits with you regarding CPR certification, and hopefully by the end of this presentation you will understand how this is an absolute must and can really enhance your outlook in certain human resources departments, and hopefully that helps you get a job or helps you in some other way. So let's go ahead and get started. A common question that I get all the time from my CPR students or my college students is, well, do I need to be CPR First Aid certified? Is it a requirement? And the answer to that is no. The OSHA regulations on CPR certification are kind of murky for the most part. I don't want to get into that complexity and open up that can of worms, but what I will tell you is that it's not generally a requirement for most employers. So because it's not a requirement, a lot of people don't want to go and get it voluntarily. However, for some job positions, especially those in healthcare, it is an absolute requirement. So for nurses, dentists, and other healthcare practitioners, we see that those licensure requirements vary by state, but in general, the CPR and First Aid certification must be current. However, for everybody else that doesn't really fit into that healthcare category, getting a CPR certification can actually give you a competitive advantage over those people who do not. So I've talked to many different human resources departments, and I've done some consulting work in the past, and what I've found time and time again is, let's say we have two individuals. Let's call them welders. We'll be real specific. I like to pick on welders. If you're a welder, you know, I'm just playing around with you here. But let's say we have two welders. One welder is really good at their job. The other is just equally as good. Both excellent welders. One of the welders has a CPR certification, a First Aid certification, and the other does not. So all things being equal, we have two highly qualified welders. The person that has the CPR and or First Aid certification is going to look a little bit more favorable to those human resources personnel than those that don't. So this is an easy way to distinguish yourself in the applicant pool. And the good thing about it is it doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's a really good certification to have outside of work, especially for those of you who have children or grandchildren and are interested in knowing what to do in case of an emergency. So let's go ahead and move on and continue the discussion. So how does an individual get certified if you aren't already? Well, the first thing I would tell you is to go with a nationally recognized training organization, such as the American Red Cross, American Heart Association, or National Safety Council. There are other ways that you can get a CPR certification, but most organizations are going to respect those three the most just because they have a national presence. They've been doing it for many years, and it's usually accepted by government entities as well for licensure requirements. So that kind of lays the groundwork there for what kind of organization to seek out. So I've always been a Red Cross trainer, so I'm always partial to that, but I'm not going to say that the American Heart Association or National Safety Council has any less of a program. They're all good, and getting a credential from any one of those organizations is highly recommended. So what you can expect for your certification is that you're probably going to want to commit about a day. So I'm going to say that on average, commit about 6 hours to your course. There's some variation to that. You know, smaller courses tend to get done a little early, and larger courses tend to drag out a little longer. So I would plan on about 6 hours. The good thing about the American Red Cross that I'm familiar with is that recertification can be done in about an hour and a half to maybe 3 hours. It kind of depends on some factors again, such as your competency and proficiency levels, the number of people in the recertification course, and a wide array of other factors. So I wouldn't bank on anything less than an hour and a half, okay, for that recertification. And I'm not quite sure whether or not American Heart or National Safety Council has a recertification program, but I know for sure that the American Red Cross does. So I would look into one of those organizations that you're interested in and kind of inquire and see what recertification options may be available to you. The good thing about keeping the recertification going is that it tends to save you some time. So instead of going through that long course again, basically what we're going to do as an instructor is you're going to be put through a course that basically gives you any updates, if there are any. And what we're going to look for as well is to make sure that you can continue to physically do CPR and first aid, and that you haven't really lost those skills. And if you have forgotten a few things because you maybe haven't used it, or it's just been 2 years since you've even thought of it, which happens a lot, then what we try to do is just kind of get that back into your mindset and kind of go over everything with you once more, and then you're on your merry little way. So let's go ahead and move on. You're probably already getting an idea of why CPR and first aid credentials can be so beneficial, but let's just rehash everything and really drive this point home. Many employers respect the certification and actually want it, but one of the major problems that I have found in my career is that employers have to send individuals to this training, and then they got to pay them to be there. They have to pay your tuition, and a lot of times that's a disincentive for employers to train employees. If you're lucky, you work for a company that has a trainer in-house, and they can train you when it's convenient to the organization. But most of the time, that's not going to be the case. So an individual, again, that has this certification already is likely to impress a potential employer. So putting the certification on your resume, again, will also help you distinguish yourself because it communicates several things. Firstly, it communicates that you have kept up with professional development, that you as an individual value education, value learning, and that you're trainable. Secondly, it communicates the fact that you stay on top of things, that you're responsible. And thirdly and lastly, it really communicates the fact that in an emergency, you're going to know what to do. You know how to stop bleeding. You know how to get the authorities and emergency rescue personnel on board, so you have a higher level of understanding of what to do. We never know what's going to happen, from man-made disasters to natural disasters, where somebody with a background in CPR first aid is really going to come to the rescue, is really going to be beneficial to the organization. So keep that in mind as you kind of mull this over. On your screen now, I have put together a very basic idea of how you can put your credentials or certifications on your resume. So what I would recommend that you do is put the training organization in this case we say American Red Cross, and then you say, okay, I did the First Aid CPR AED course, received 10/10/2013. It expires on this date. And what I like to do in addition to this is I will put in when the refresher training was received as well. So I always like to leave the courses kind of in chronological order, so it demonstrates how long an individual has been trained. So for example, if we just put my current refresher training course on there as 10/10/2013 and it expires 10/10/2015, it doesn't show all those years that I've actually held a credential. So another way of doing that is, say I was trained in 2008. So let's say, for example, I received it from 10/10/2008. I will put that on there as received, and then I will put expiration of my most recent card at 10/10/2015. So again, you have an idea of how long you've maintained that credential. So that's a real big benefit, because it shows that you've kind of committed to this over time, and that you are an excellent candidate for the organization because of your continued knowledge. Now, I don't want to discourage you, however, if you're an individual that's never had this credential. So having it alone puts you leaps and bounds ahead of those who do not. So going forward, try to maintain that credential over time, and then take my advice here to really enhance the outlook for your career. I thought that I would kind of point you in the right direction, because I know many of you are like, well, I know this is a great presentation, or it's an awful presentation for some of you. You may hate it, you may love it. But one of the questions that I probably expect some of you to ponder is, well, I don't really know how to do a resume to begin with. I have problems putting things on paper. I don't know how to list everything or organize everything to really make myself competitive. Okay, and a lot of times it's really difficult now, because different organizations are going to that online format, and that can be difficult. So one of the recommendations that I had for you was to look into a book by Martin Gate. I've read through this book. It's really, really good. I don't have the most recent copy. I think that Martin updates it from time to time. And keep in mind, I don't have an interest in it. It's just a really, really good book to help individuals out. And it's called Knock 'em Dead Resumes. And I think that if you wanted to go to their website, knockemdead.com, I believe it is. I could be wrong. If I am, put it in the comments section and correct me. But they'll actually write resumes for you if you really need help. A lot of other organizations do that too. If you want to get off for maybe $20, $25, I would just buy the Knock 'em Dead resumes. There's a lot of different resumes in there that you could look at to really enhance the outcome of getting a job or changing careers. Okay, so I guess I'm telling you this so you can take your first aid and CPR credentials and use this book to kind of put together a really powerful resume all together. Okay, because the point of this presentation is not to get into all the other things that should be on your resume, because we all know that if you just have, a first aid credential on there, it's not going to be a very impressive resume. So I want you to possibly take a look at this book as an excellent reference point, and seek out some other books if you want to see if there's something that might work better for you. But for now, this is my recommendation. I think it's really good, and feel free to pursue that if you choose. I do understand that I've kind of focused a lot on CPR and first aid in this presentation, but any other type of valuable safety or health credential that you may have, I highly recommend that you put that on your resume as well. So here are some examples. Any of you that might have had an OSHA 10 or 30-hour course in construction, general industry, or maritime, or even a disaster site safety course, a HAZWOPER 24 or 40, or an 8-hour annual refresher, Safeland USA, Rig Pass, those two are really big in the energy sector or oil and gas industry right now. And then obviously the bloodborne pathogens, first aid or AED courses are going to tie right into CPR. And then any other professional development course that you may hold a credential in or have a certificate in will be really, really good. So I would leverage everything that you've done in a career. You'll be very surprised how far that will take you and how impressive that will look. So for you younger individuals out there that are trying to be more competitive in the workplace, maybe you graduated high school and you're getting right into the workforce as a tradesman, or you're going to tech school, or even for our younger 21 to 23-year-old college graduates, you have that bachelor's degree and you're looking at being more competitive in the workplace. One of the things that you can do is start acquiring some of these basic safety credentials. So I would recommend, as a general supplement to the first aid and CPR course, that you look into an OSHA 10-hour general industry or OSHA 10-hour construction safety course, because first of all, those don't really expire. And in some jurisdictions, you have to take it, every 5 years or so, such as in places in New England, and I believe Nevada is another good example. But in general, listing out as many safety credentials as possible to supplement that safety credential section or certification section of your resume will be very, very good and beneficial to anyone that does that. So as you move forward in your careers and you look for new work, or you try to move up and you're looking for ways to be more competitive, again, maintaining a CPR and first aid credential should help you, as well as some of those other credentials that I outlined just a moment ago. And I really want you to understand that your resume is kind of a living document, so it's always going to change, as you get more experience, as you do more and more things over your career. So if you are unemployed, this would be a really good investment for you. I think that for most first-time CPR courses, you might be able to get in a course for $75 to say $100, depending on where you're at, for that first credential. And then usually somewhere around $75 or so for the refresher course that you're going to have to take for CPR and first aid every 2 years. So if you break that up as an annual cost, you can see it's very affordable, but you have to put in the extra dollars initially to make that happen. My name is Markus Wesaw, and again, I hope you enjoyed the presentation on CPR and first aid certifications and why you need them on your resume. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our website. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you very much.